An extraordinarily rare personality type was discovered by Carl Jung as having 8 symptoms, and you're considered a member of the psychological elite if you can identify even half of these characteristics. During his extensive investigation, Jung found that only a small fraction of the population achieves what he called differentiated awareness. This means that the majority of individuals never experience reality in this way. What makes these unusual people so interesting, though, is that they frequently live their whole lives certain that something is wrong with them. Society has persuaded many persons with deep psychological complexity that their sensitivity, passion, and refusal to accept superficial explanations are defects in their character rather than indications of remarkable intelligence, as Jung detailed in numerous case studies. What was the worst aspect? Jung came to the realization that these unique personalities aren't merely unique, they are evolutionary advanced. They are a symbol of the next level of consciousness that humans will reach. Come explore the depths of Jungian psychology with me as I reveal 8 telltale markers of uncommon personality types. Everything you've heard about being too much will make sense once you see these patterns. After all, you aren't too much. There isn't enough on earth for you. Because current psychology still denies what Jung found, characteristics that make you feel different from the crowd aren't flaws, but rather strengths. You're on the verge of breaking through, not broken. As Jung put it, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. However, what happens if one's authentic self doesn't conform to societal norms? What if, instead of settling for a superficial life, your intensity, depth, and stubbornness are manifestations of what I mean when I talk about advanced psychological architecture? View this issue through the lens of evolution. Whoever dared to challenge the established quo throughout history was the one who propelled civilization ahead. They felt everything, questioned everything, and saw possibilities no one else could. Tragically, too, society teaches these extraordinary people to bury their gifts. Too emotional, too intense, or too complex are words that have likely been used to describe you. Jung, however, saw that these supposedly defective traits really indicate psychological distinctiveness, namely, the exceptional capacity to experience and comprehend reality on a level that the majority of people never attain. The field of modern neuroscience is now beginning to fully grasp Jung's theories. About 20% of the population possesses neural systems that receive sensory information more profoundly, according to Dr. Elaine Aron's research on highly sensitive people. However, Jung did find something even more unusual: people whose complete psychological system functions at a high level. The most remarkable aspect is not contained therein. What makes these unique individuals even more remarkable is that they have been socialized to view their talents as liabilities. Therefore, they conceal them. Because you know that some people find your light frightening, you've learned to turn it down. Allow me to disclose the initial indicator of what I refer to as psychological rarity. First symptom: you feel profoundly moved by something that seems utterly out of this world. A fascinating thing that Jung found out about intense emotions is that certain people don't merely feel them, they have what he called affect tone complexes, which generate deep psychological resonance. You are more than the sum of your sensations. They flow through you like symphonies, with hidden meanings in every note. This is an emotional instability, as Jung discovered, and which most therapists fail to notice. Emotional sophistication is what it is. Emotional sophistication is what it is. When your emotions run deep, you aren't being dramatic. By doing so, you are tapping into what Carl Jung termed the objective psyche, the parts of the human mind that society teaches its members to bury. Even before anyone says a word, you can sense the air of tension in the room. Your mind is hardwired for profound connections, not superficial small talk, so you take the emotional undertones of every encounter with you. According to Jung, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. However, it seems like for you, everything shines a light on routes to knowledge that others fail to notice. Second sign: you have an insatiable love of knowledge that I refer to as sacred curiosity. Most people, Jung argued, lead lives that are best described as unconscious. They blindly embrace social programming. However, you are compelled to probe farther. You have an active thinking function, which Jung would have identified as someone who does not accept superficial answers. You inquire about the why rather than the what. Why do individuals persist in relationships that only serve to degrade them? Why do we put up with systems that work against people's happiness? What gives us the impression that small talk may substitute for deep connection? The capacity to perceive beyond present constraints is what Jung referred to as the transcendent function. You see a more genuine future that respects the entire range of human potential, even as everyone else settles for the current situation. What I've learned about you and others like you, though, is that your inquiries poke holes in the convenient illusions of others around you. By delving into profound inquiries, one does more than merely seek clarification. One also confronts the mental barriers that enable individuals to feel secure within their own confines. Said someone who thinks too deeply or asks too many questions. Just say, "My curiosity is sacred." 3. You have achieved what I refer to as conscious independence. As Jung put it, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. Well, it seems like you've figured it out, not voluntarily, but out of sheer psychological pressure. Research by Jung indicates that unusual personalities, typically as a result of hardship, tend to attain individuated consciousness at an earlier stage than the average person. Your independence isn't a defense mechanism, it's an accomplishment. This is something Jung realized that most people miss. You know from experience that it's psychologically dangerous to rely on other people to make you feel valuable. So you made it all the way up. You stood firm, sometimes by yourself, building an identity that is unshakable, regardless of the presence or absence of others. Individualization, the path towards psychological wholeness, was what Jung called this process, because it involves confronting what Jung called the shadow, all the aspects of oneself that have been trained to reject. Most people never finish this journey. Your time alone is not lonely, it is a haven. Here you can rediscover the authentic you, unencumbered by societal norms and expectations. The cornerstone of all psychological well-being, according to Jung, is self-awareness. The fourth sign is that you are very self-aware. The recognition of intuition as a valid psychological function by Jung sparked a revolutionary movement in psychology. According to him, intuition is perception via the unconscious that brings forth ideas, images, possibilities, ways out of a blocked situation, mostly unconsciously. You have the ability to read people's psychological fingerprints, not merely witness them. Things like subtle changes in energy, nonverbal cues, and micro-expressions become apparent. The capacity to see beyond what is immediately apparent is what Jung would have called active imagination. If someone claims to be fine, but their energy field begs to differ, it's obvious. If other people in the room choose to ignore the tension, you will feel it in your bones. Psychological sensitivity at a level rarely attained is at work here. This is not paranoia. However, Jung cautioned that this sensitivity will drain you unless you find a way to safeguard it. You run the danger of unconsciously listening to everyone around you, controlling the flow of discussion, and taking on the burden of other people's suffering. The need for significance is paramount for you, sign 5. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." However, what if being authentic requires denying societal pressures to pursue material possessions? Jung found that some people just can't physically or mentally pretend to be someone they're not. If you really want to be popular, you'll have to sacrifice meaning for it. It's likely that you've experimented with living for approval from others, acting out predetermined parts, and following scripts. The symptoms, such as a feeling of betrayal, emptiness, and quiet despair underlying the praise, would have been readily apparent to Jung. Psychotic symptoms manifest, according to Jung, when one lives counter to their psychological type. When you act in an unnatural way, your mind fights back. Insincere objectives are meaningless. You won't be excited by accomplishments that don't have substance. It is unbearable to be in a relationship when connection takes a back seat to convenience. It is not possible due to your mental makeup. According to Jung, these types of people act as catalysts for the awakening of humanity. By standing firm for genuine connection, you force people to face their own inauthenticity. Symptom number 6, you've outgrown many settings and people. As Jung put it, the greatest tragedy of the family is the unlived lives of the parents. But what happens when one refuses to live a life that is not lived? According to Jung, it is typically in solitude that one's maturation takes place. Not because you've evolved, but because you've let go of conditioning that doesn't work for you. You may have had the unpleasant revelation that those who knew you before no longer do. Psychological death and rebirth was what Jung referred to this as. Your pals from when you were more reserved, truthful, and people-pleaser may long for the days when you were more outgoing and confident. No turning back now. Jung realized that mental development cannot be turned back the clock. No one can go back to unconsciously conforming to societal norms after they've seen through the mask of social indoctrination. My evolution is non-negotiable. This statement might be useful when people are trying to get you to back down or ignore your progress. Sign number 7. Your presence has a transformative quality. According to Jung, the meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed. But what if just being in your company has a transformative effect? An uncommon quality, according to Jung, is the capacity to establish a psychic safe haven. People feel uncommonly visible when they talk to you. You have the ability to read people's emotions rather than merely hearing what they say. You provide profound witnessing rather than fast solutions. By pausing before passing judgment, you make room for the truth to surface. This degree of presence, according to Jung, is a means of psychological restoration. My observation is that those endowed with this gift tend to overextend themselves by sharing it with others. When you practice holding space for other people so well, you eventually stop asking for it yourself. A pattern of unconscious self-sacrifice that doesn't benefit anyone. Helper syndrome is common among people with extremely empathic dispositions, according to Jung. The task at hand is not to cease caring, but rather to acquire insight. The 8th sign indicates that you are being guided by an unspoken mission. According to Jung, your vision becomes clear when you look into your heart. However, the transcendent function, or the need for individuation and purpose, can be identified when one has an enduring feeling that they are meant for something greater than the ordinary. I can tell you because you sense it. Feeling restless because you know you can make a difference, create something, or express yourself. Even though it's not entirely apparent just yet, it's there. This, according to Jung, was the creative potential wanting to be expressed. Living in line with your deepest nature is a psychological imperative, and alignment is more important than celebrity or recognition. Jung cautioned that neurotic symptoms like worry, despair, and a lack of purpose would emerge if one disregarded this calling. Your calling is transpersonal, not merely personal, according to Jung. This is his most significant insight. You are here to contribute to the process of consciousness's own evolution. People with your level of developed psychological complexity are known as differentiated persons, according to Jung's research. This complexity grants them unparalleled levels of perceiving, feeling, and understanding. Rare personalities, he found, go through distinct phases of growth. The first stage involves the unconscious stranger. Someone has changed you, but you don't know what or why. You see your characteristics more as flaws than as strengths. You put a lot of mental burden on yourself by trying to fit in. Jung noted that these people frequently exhibit rigidity in their personas, losing touch with who they really are, as they become overly preoccupied with maintaining an ordinary appearance. The second stage involves the awakening person. You start to appreciate your qualities more. As you gain familiarity with Jung's psychological types, you begin to integrate your shadow side, or the aspects of yourself that you have been socialized to reject. Embrace your depth instead of apologizing for it. You avoid people who try to bring you down, and instead seek out genuine relationships. Third stage, the subjective self-aware mind. You have successfully assimilated your unique characteristics into a unified persona. You are aware of your life's mission and actively pursue it. When you've mastered being genuine and connected, you've achieved psychological wholeness. By shining a light on other unique individuals, you encourage them to be themselves and contribute to our collective progress. I am psychologically rare and proud. Leave a remark if you're prepared to stop denying and begin embracing your unique qualities. However, psychic inflation was a critical shadow pattern that Jung cautioned about, the peril of thinking that uniqueness confers superiority rather than accountability. Understanding your uniqueness without thinking other people are less valued is power humbleness. You are intelligent and sensitive. Neither of those things is a flaw. You are being just as intense as is necessary. Not only is it essential, but your reluctance to settle is also not tough. As a species, we shall evolve, according to Jung's prediction. In the future, what is uncommon now will be the norm. You are significant to evolution. You are rare even among humans. What you stand for is the cutting edge of human awareness, according to Jung. What drives mankind ahead are your ways of being, your depth, and your questions. On occasion, it might be quite lonely. It requires bravery, I agree. On the other hand, Jung thought that we need more individuals like you to advance as a species. Your passion is just the right amount. In fact, it's precisely what the world needs to break free of its cozy numbness. A sensitive person like you is strong because they can see details that others overlook. What you're doing isn't hard, it's progress, your refusal to settle. Because you're doing more than simply living your life, you're broadening the definition of humanity. Jung devoted his life to researching individuals like you. Quietness and diminution are not necessities in our life. In other words, it requires you to be unique and proud in every way that matters to you. I am evolutionary consciousness in human form. Leave a remark if you're prepared to stop apologizing for being unique and start embracing it. Feel free to forward this to someone who could use a reminder of how unique they are psychologically. In my video titled Final Warning to Empaths, They're Feeding on Your Light, I discuss Jung's most disturbing finding regarding the way unconscious people drain the energy of psychologically advanced individuals. If you're interested in learning more about this dark side of sensitivity, you should watch it. Sign up now, since we're only scratching the surface of all the ways you're remarkable. Always keep in mind that you are not too much, but that the world is. You are the type of person who can change that, and Jung was aware of that.